This is Ready, Set, Reiki, a podcast about Reiki and all energy work, from the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, welcoming all systems, all lineages, all levels. Reiki is a journey and not a destination. And on this Ready, Set, Reiki journey, I refer to myself as a guide rather than host, as I too am traveling, learning, and supporting others on this Reiki journey as well. And with that said, I am your guide, Tracy Seawright, and this is Ready, Set, Reiki. Hello, Reiki family, and Reiki blessings to one and all. Another amazing journey ahead today. But before I begin, I need to remind you about a great place to land. Now, perhaps you are thinking about a business, perhaps you're in the trenches of the business, wherever you are. Maybe it's not a thought yet, but maybe a consideration. Check out the Reiki Business Collective. This is a face group book. It costs $0 to join this. This is a place where you can share, support, and serve, and connect with others in your business journey as well. So it's a great place to just cheer each other on as well. Even if you're just curious and not really sure, you can come on and read the post and read the information. And Christian Stone also has a Reiki business podcast as well. So it's a great place to listen and to learn and to grow. Also, I'd like to invite you to the Reiki Business Summit. This is April 18th to the 19th, and you might find somebody on there who looks a little bit familiar, and that's me. So along with actually two of my teachers on here, so Pam and was my animal Reiki teacher, and Karen is my mentor for the ICRT program. So great information, a great weekend, lots of knowledge here. If this is something that is calling to you, check it out. Now, back to our journey. So animal Reiki it is today. Nancy Welsh, now she is a Reiki master specializing in animal Reiki, and you are in luck today because our furry assistants are here. They are on standby. I've got my 5 furry babies here. Nancy has hers as well. So you may hear a little barking, but no, that is all good and positive. So now she is human animal bond. She is certified in Holy Fire 3, World Peace Reiki, Animal Reiki, Karuna Reiki, and through the International Center of Reiki Training. She is also a certified 3 animal communicator through Linda Roberts, a certified end of life. Now, with this as well, she is a doula through Elaine McCarty, the animal Reiki lady, as well as angel oracle card reader with Cow Grace. So many similarities. It's just amazing. I love it. Through her practice of balance and connection, she helps animals release anxiety, emotional stress, and energetic inner balances while supporting deeper connection through pets and people who love them. Her work focuses on supporting energy balances and emotional healing. Now, she offers animal Reiki sessions, connection experiences, such as Connected Hearts and Paw Compassionate Support Group for animals and their guardians through transition. She also leads the Peaceful Paw Reiki Heart Connected Center Pet Support Circle. Here, I'd like to give you a Ready, Set, Reiki welcome to Nancy.
Hi, Tracy. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Wonderful. So one of my favorite things, animal Reiki, I love it so much. And I know you have a lot of information to share, a lot of familiar names in your biography. So let's begin our journey together. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Chicago South suburbs, and I was there until I retired. I went back to college in my early 30s, and I was working full-time as an accounting clerk at the time, and I became a CPA. And then, although I'd still have a long way to go with it, finishing college, doing well on the CPA exam, just, you know what, that cracked the door to the very beginnings of a journey of self-confidence and self-love. And it's been a long journey with that, of course, but, it really helped boost me that I was able to achieve that. And I got married, have a son, and I was working in public accounting and working on my work-life balance. And then 2018, it was just one of those pivotal years. Multiple family members died. There were so many changes. My aunt, who was in her early 90s, passed. And then 2 sisters-in-law, which were close to my age, they passed. And by the fall of that year, after my second sister-in-law transition, I just said, I can't deal with another tax season. I'm done. And I retired. And after retirement, started looking around, didn't want to stay in the Chicago area, and landed in Southwest Michigan. So I am now in Benton Harbor. I've moved a couple times since I've been here, but I love it here. I feel like I belong here. And here I am.
Well, I am so sorry for your losses. I mean, grief really does something to us where it allows us to pause and really decide, is this how I really want to continue my life? It's often that catalyst for change. And my experience was the same thing. The loss of my sister really turned my life around from working in the schools teaching to now teaching others about Reiki and yoga. So it's quite interesting. So Reiki. When did the Reiki come into your life? Did you find Reiki or did it find you?
Well, so after this same year, it turns out when you look back at to put this information, you go, wow, so much happened that year. That spring, after a really rough tax season, I said, I'm going to treat myself and I'm going to go find some reflexology somewhere. And the shop I found happened to be a metaphysical shop. And so after my reflexology session, they're like, we have this really great reader here. Why don't you come and get a reading? So I made an appointment. A couple months later, I had my reading and found out that the aunt that had just died, which is why I particularly mentioned her, was really kind of giving me nudges to get going on a spiritual journey. And this shop held a lot of different classes. So I just started coming to the weekly classes, crystals and angels and psychometry and all kinds of fun stuff. A great chance to explore all that. And then, Reiki was coming up. Okay, well, I'll take the Reiki class. And I loved it. I never saw myself doing sessions in a shop on people. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But, I got Reiki. I did Reiki 1 and 2 at that time. And it was pretty wonderful. So I practiced on the family and stuff, but there are only a handful of people interested. So it didn't exactly get put aside. I was still doing lots of the other classes. But once Animal Reiki popped up, that it was like, I can work on my dogs.
Yeah.
And everything clicked. That was what felt like exactly the right thing for me.
Right. Beautiful, beautiful. So we have Holy Fire 3, World Peace Reiki Master Teacher, Animal Reiki, Karuna Reiki. As you've gone and learned and grown with your Reiki out into the world, what are some misconceptions that you hear people say about Reiki?
Oh, the biggest one, and I'm still running into this today, that people believe it interferes with their own religious practices. And yes. I know everybody, a lot of people, Reiki masters comment on this. It just doesn't. Right. It does not going to interfere in anything you're doing in your own religious practices. It is not a religion.
Right.
And so I think that's been a little bit of a wall here for me.
Right. Yeah. Even and the same thing with like yoga too. People just see the word and they're like, and it's the same thing with Reiki. They're like, I don't do that. And so there's all those misconceptions about it. Right, and it's one of those modalities that you have to experience instead of explaining. You're like, what are the words you can put together to kind of connect it? But it's something you have to experience to be like, oh, I get this. Yeah.
So I'm learning that if I go in and say I can help with their anxiety. I mean, Reiki could probably, I don't know. I'd leave the Reiki for after. Oh, how are you doing that if they're interested or not? But I'm learning to not let people get caught up in the word and kind of explain what's happening before I bring the word in.
Right. So you are there supporting others through grief, through challenging times, losing a pet. I mean, that's a family member, devastating. I've just gone through this myself a couple of weeks ago, putting down compassion, euthanasia for my 13-year-old Cavalier King Charles. So in your experience, as you have helped others, what has been the biggest challenge or struggle you have faced in your own healing journey?
Let's see. Well, It's probably, again, that self-love thing. Okay, so I'll touch back on this later, but I lost two of my dogs transitioned last year, and one of them was I didn't do enough. I didn't do enough to help you, and I always bring that back on me. Why couldn't I have done more? And so you've got to recognize I love myself. This is my healing journey too, and I'm not meant to do everything for everyone else. And I think as an empath and a healer, it's just, we feel like I can help them and fix everything. And no, it's not always the right thing to do, actually.
Right. I know I struggle with that as an empath and animal communicator, knowing that my dog was ready to go. And I had a situation where my husband, who had lost my father-in-law the year before, wasn't ready to let Bentley go. And it was like each day, it was like, he's ready. And my husband's like, no, not yet, And when I learned animal Reiki, we talked a little bit before the podcast. The reason why I had gotten in was to kind of help the dogs here in the area that were abandoned and lost. But when I went through it, the training, the workshop, I realized, oh my goodness, this is to help me too. It's for humans, it's caretaker fatigue. You wouldn't think about that. Guilt, forgiveness, because these are things that we're carrying, and, you don't want our animals to absorb this from us. Right. So those are great tools to have. But yeah, put that on yourself. Like, I didn't do enough. Like, it just feels like it never feels like enough time. Right. No matter how many times you go through it, it doesn't get any easier,
Yeah.
So when it's time for you to get an energetic tune-up, what are some qualities that you look for in a Reiki practitioner?
I'll listen to different podcasts. And I'll say, "Ooh, I want to try that healing, and I want to try this one." But it always ends up coming down to who I connect with the most, who really feels the best connection with. A new massage person came into town less than a year ago, and I could see from his offerings, oh, he's on this really cool stuff. I got to try it. But it ends up that, like, he works very intuitively, and that's a very comfortable thing for me. Is okay, you're going to work intuitively on what's best for me, and that's really what I want. If you're going in for Reiki or any other modality, are they going to be able to? Are they just following a step by step, or are they going to really get in there intuitively and work with what's needed the most?
Right. And it's so interesting that you have traditionalists who are like, nope, this is one way, the other, only way. But really, when you look at it, Uzui Sensei was intuitive, right? So to have that option that you can go to that intuitive healer or a systematic healer, it gives you some options. And the whole goal here is really helping you heal yourself, clear your mind. And you should be able to have that ability in today's world. I mean, it's very different now than 1922, right? To be able to say, you know what, this feels right for me. I feel safe. You want to also go to someone makes you feel safe. And if that's an intuitive person, absolutely. And again, it's about that connection. So, explaining Reiki is one of those modalities that you need to just be in the Reiki. So leaving your job, doing this, full time, what advice would you give someone who's just wanting to enter this spiritual work and they're thinking like, I'd like to leave my job and I'd like to do this?
Well, I came at this later in life, and it's, for me, it hasn't gone as quickly as I would have liked. It's there's been a lot of building up to it. And I look back and I can see why, but it's so frustrating along the journey when you think, oh, I'm going to open a business and everyone's just going to come because I'm going to ask the angels to send them. And they do, but there are more steps along the way than I would have thought. I have a business background, but still from a different perspective, and the marketing is still a thing for me.
Sure.
A work in process there.
Yeah, it's a constant thing, right? I mean, just endless with posting and social media, and It's something else. But I get what you're saying too, because, I raised my children. There was a season where I wasn't able to do these things. And then the children have grown, and as an empty nester, and I'll have people like, well, I want to do what you want to do. But it's like, but it took me a long time. Like, it took me for my children to grow up. My youngest will be 23 this year, right? My oldest will be 30. So this gives you a time frame that, it wasn't. And I was even thinking of this a couple of days ago. I also teach yoga, and I have an injury that I need to have surgery on my hip. And I was thinking, wow, like, I wish I would have just started teaching in my 20s, how different it would have been. But it wasn't possible. I was a mom. I had a family. My husband was traveling for work, and I'm like, well, this is the way it's supposed to be. But also, time and age and wisdom, and even having the injury, I feel allowed me to be a better teacher with it. So it's all in perfect timing. So don't give up on that, right? It's going to happen when it happens. And even if you're in your 50s and your 60s and your 70s, you can make a difference. You can do wonderful and amazing things. I mean, when you look at it, Azui Sensei was 65 when he passed. So he was only working with that energy for 4 years. So don't give up.
Right.
So what books do you recommend?
All right. Well, the most life-changing book I've done recently is Lee Harris. A friend mentioned him, and I'm doing the Future Human, I think. So I got it on Audible and started listening to it. And it was like every chapter was like, oh, that's what I believed. And, even in our metaphysical, spiritual communities, some of these things aren't addressed. Like, oh, I knew that was true. And it was life-changing for me. And then when you're listening to it on audiobooks, any of his works, you're here, like, you can feel the Z's energy. If you know of Lee Harris, right? The Z's. Okay. I could feel their energy, and it would just always lift my vibration up just from that alone. But that was really wonderful. Right now, I'm listening to Tammy Billups, and she does a lot of work with like soul contracts with animals. And so much of that jives with my beliefs and the directions I want to go with my work. And so I am taking a class from her as well. But this one is like perfect fit for me right now.
Right. And people just don't even think too of soul contracts as well. Like my daughter works at the zoo, and when an animal passes, and I tell her, it's okay. That animal knew this signing up for it. Like when you see that, animal that's been run over, it might be like, well, I'm tired of being a raccoon, so here I go, I'm going to jump in front of this car, right? And even when you see these animals that are sad and what you would consider just deplorable conditions, that was the soul contract. It might be like, you know what, I'm good, I know what I'm supposed to do, mind your own business.
I know we want to help them with everything, but that's the perfect reminder. Even with my dogs last year that both transitioned, these were soul contracts, and they came in and taught me things and left at their time.
Right.
Time to go.
Yeah. And just getting that permission, allowing them to be a part of that healing process, as Bentley was declining, it's like, are you ready to go? And I just told him, you did a great job. You did what you were supposed to do. Thank you for everything that you've done, so that he could leave this and transition in peace.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So what other services do you offer? Do you do classes, events, or trainings?
I haven't started teaching classes yet. I do have online events. You can find me on Eventbrite and dragonflyreiki.me. I offer events through there. I've done, for Valentine's Day, I did a Connected Hearts group event, and it was just such a beautiful experience. It's like, oh, I want to do that more often because I could, it was a small group, so I could see some of the bonds strengthening. I could literally see that. It was just beautiful. I also offer Peaceful Pause and Reiki as a grief support group. I'm not a counselor or anything. but just giving people an opportunity to tell their story, because, you're just to validate them, about your grief, your relationship with that animal. When people lose, I'll call them a pet, because to me that's, they're my family, my pet. This is the one who's been there every time you walk in the door. They're there waiting for you. They're thrilled to see you, and you come home and they're gone. And I just, that's rough. It's a big change. And people say, oh, well, it was just a dog. Get over it. And no, it's not. I was probably closer to that animal in many ways than anyone else in the world right now. So I really wanted to give support, and then like do a guided meditation and Reiki, and help them to be able to release that grief and share their stories. So
I mean, grief creeps up at unexpected times, and when we said goodbye to Bentley, and we had have five other dogs back to home, and it's even a different household. And I hate to even say it, but it was like the dogs were more peaceful. They were more playful, because we had spent months, he was in congestive heart failure. So this kind of controlling our lives for months, and coming back, and it's like, okay, they're playful and moving on. And it's like, I hate to say that I think they're doing better without him here, but I mean, and that makes you sad too, right? Because he was such an important piece in our lives. And so that's a process as well, to be like, okay, like our mornings are now so different. Like we can feed them very quickly and things are moving, and like, okay, and the moving on.
That's just it, that they are showing you, okay, it's okay to just move on and start playing. He had an effect on their lives, but
of course. And this is why there are teachers too. So
right.
So where can we find you, in person or online, if you're interested, if anyone's interested in a session or service from you?
Okay. Balancingconnections.com is my website. I'm also on dragonflyreiki.me. And I can do in-person sessions on Saturdays in St. Joe, Michigan.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. Well, that ends the first part of our journey. I'm going to guide you to the second part, which are questions from social media and from Reiki students. So number one, if someone is already a Reiki practitioner or master teacher, what are some benefits to taking an animal Reiki training or workshop?
All right, so if you're already attuned to Reiki, you can work on your pets. That's not going to stop you. But, when I took the ICRT animal Reiki class, I just, there's a new symbol, and with each symbol, there's a different vibration. So this does bring in another vibration, and that's part of it. But the other part is just getting trained to work in session with animals. When you take your first levels of a Sui 1 or 2 or Holy Fire, you're learning all the hand placements, and this is how the session goes. But with animals, it's just completely different. You won't have necessarily the opportunity to do all hand placements on your on an animal. You might on your own dog, and you might not. They won't necessarily sit still for it. They recognize the energy right away, and they might push their shoulder at you or turn around and push their back end at you, because that's where they want it and they know what it is. And so there's a lot more to working with animals.
Right.
Just different. It's not it's just different.
Yeah. I always call it like a specialty. It takes it a little bit deeper. And I'll give you an example. Well, one, as practitioners, we always close our eyes, right? But they tell you to keep your eyes open for safety. But when I was taking the class with Pam, we talked about you get excited. You're like, oh, there's a fish. And you're going to give Reiki. And in your eagerness, right, you give Reiki to the whole tank. But that fish may not want all that water to have Reiki in it. And it's like, wow, you're trapping them. You're not giving them a choice. And it's like, oh my goodness. So a little technique of a bubble of Reiki to float in the water so that the fish can go around, above, and when it wants to enjoy it, it will come through the bubble. Even like with a bird, you don't want to give it all in the cage where the bird's trapped. You always want to give the animal a choice. So that kind of really changed the way that I did Reiki, because we get excited. We're like, yeah. So it takes it a little bit deeper than learning the techniques for humans. And they don't need a long session. They don't need an hour session. They may need 3 minutes. And it was kind of interesting. Someone mentioned, is that because they don't live as long as us? And it's like, that's kind of interesting. But probably because they don't have the baggage, right? They have that unconditional love. So
right. They have their levels of baggage, but they're just, like I said, they recognize it. So they're just in, okay, that's all I need. I'm done for now.
Yeah, give it a little shake and there we go. So number 2, you offer support group for those who are navigating the grief of a loved one. Can you tell us a little bit about your peaceful pause in Reiki?
Well, the idea came about because, as I've mentioned, I lost two of my dogs transitions. They're not lost. They're not here in body with me. So the first one was last May, and that was Finnegan, and he was a 165-pound brown and white Newfie, and he was so handsome and long, and he was like extra tall and graceful. It was like you could see, like he was more lion than Newfie, and he was a little over 2.5 years old, and we'd been having some issues with him, and I talked to the rescue about him, and he was going to have to be euthanized. And so that was pretty tough to wrap my head around, this young guy, and and he was going to have to go. And it was devastating, and there's still a lot of emotion tied into that one. So then I came home. I immediately said to my 12-year-old Newfie, you can't go yet. You've got to give me some time, because she was 12, and that's, for a Newfie, that's like really old. And so it was like a little over 3 months later, and it was Lakey's time. But it was such a different experience. I mean, she was older. We know her health was declining. And the last time, we had time with her to spoil her, to give her all the junk food she could have ever wanted, because she was quite a junk food junkie, and just, to take care of her. And I was able to connect with her. Actually, I couldn't at first. I was too emotional. Yeah. I find when I'm too emotional, I can't connect with my own. But my dog, Lakey, reached out to a fellow animal communicator that she had talked to before, and she sent this poem to Helen for me. And Helen gave me this poem back, and it was just so beautiful. It opened our connection back up anyway, because I just, it was how much she loved me and how much she wished she could stay with me forever. But, it was her time. And so then I was able to keep asking her, is it time yet, Lakey? Are you ready yet? And no, Mama, not yet. And then when she was. So it was just such a different experience, knowing did all we could for her physically. We did all we could for her and with her. And when it was her time, she was ready. Okay. It was like traditional sort of, and then that was it. But anyway, after 2, I said, there's a lot of grief out there, and I want to help with that.
Well, thank you for doing that. Thank you for, as you walk through your own experience, to have the courage to turn it into something to help support others.
Yeah.
Number 3, April 19th marks the start of your summit, where you offer a free registration for pet guardians and professionals. So tell us a little bit about that and what inspired you to create this summit.
All right. So the summit is called Losing Lulu, and Losing Lulu was created by Sue Alexander, and she's a well-known aggressive dog trainer and owner of the Dog Trainers Crucible. And Lulu was her dog that she experienced behavioral euthanasia with. And so she started this group, and I am a corporate sponsor and member of this summit, and it starts on April 19th, and they will discuss a lot about behavioral euthanasia. It's such a touchy subject. People that have had to go through it are just, there's so much judgment out there. And then when you are a professional working with animals, there's just that extra layer of how come I couldn't help more.
Yeah.
And so it's a great group. It gives us a place to open up and tell our stories. And so many of the stories are so similar, but there's so much guilt involved with this. This summit is going to talk about research and grief and impacts of it on your life, and talk about BE and shelters and rescues, and then what to consider when you're making that decision. Because believe me, it's not an easy one. It's tough. Yeah.
Right. We had an animal that we had gotten, a dog, and it went on another neighbor's dog, and like they wanted to put him down, and then we kind of ended up having to find another home for him, and I felt horrible about it and guilty about it. So, and even this happened like years ago, like 15 years ago, and I still feel bad about it. But the dog went to another home, and it was where there was no kids and things like that, a lot of other factors. So who knows what triggered it, but the vet had said it was a behavioral issue and wanted to put him down. I'm like, oh, and he was so young. So I thought, let's give him another shot. So yeah, a lot of emotion with that. Well, that is our third question and last question. As we've been talking, is there anything else that you'd like to share or something that you've forgotten? The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I'm in the process of revamping my website. And so we've been able to map out better my offerings. And when it comes up, there'll be this whole nice sequence of offerings, starting with animal Reiki, generally for anxiety and such. And then there'll be offerings for when you bring a new pet into your home, and all the rescues and shelters have this rule of 3-3-3, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months of your new pet adjusting. So I'm offering sessions that go in line with that. And then after that, we're looking at connected hearts, and this gives you an opportunity with meditation and Reiki to strengthen your bond and your connections with your animals. And as I work with people, I find out they really do know more about their animals and that than they think they do. It's a beautiful connection to see. And then going into then maybe behavior issues, if you have any. And as I've touched on behavioral euthanasia, that I work in that to support trainers and all of the other modalities. But, it says that Reiki can come in and maybe help to move along some of the energetic blocks or issues that are going on with them. And it's not going to replace the other work, of course, but just supporting that work. And then I am, as an end-of-life pet doula, can work with the transition. Once you've received a diagnosis, we can start working there to make sure they're comfortable and help you to keeping track of how they're doing, how they're eating. And when you look at it written down, oh no, I panicked because, they didn't eat today. But you keep track of that. You keep track of their eating, their sleeping, their movement. And, might be better than you think, or maybe because you love them so much, you don't realize how much they are more struggling. And so and then I can help with Reiki during transition, which I have done for all of my own and for clients too. And that's, that just gives them a more relaxing, beautiful send off. They could just, I believe it helps them let go of more of what's going on here as they're moving forward.
Absolutely. And, Reiki, it can be beneficial to the vets and the vet staff and for zookeepers and those that work with animals in shelters. It gets fatiguing, and the death affects them too. When they lose an animal at the zoo, the zookeepers are heartbroken. I mean, my daughter, a macaw had passed, and she was so devastated, and still thinks about it months later, over it. And she wasn't even there. She was at a completely different zoo. She had moved by that time, but it still affected her.
Sure.
How can we get in touch with you once again?
balancingconnections.com. Also dragonflyreiki.me. That's best. My email is balancingconnections3@gmail.com. And feel free to reach out to me. We'll be offering little discovery sessions. Right now, I've got a 15-minute intro to distance Reiki, because that's another thing about Reiki that many people believe it has to be in person.
Yeah.
This isn't a physical massage. And as you discussed, when you're working with animals, when you're working with them live, there's no closing the eyes. You've got to be aware.
Absolutely. And also, too, what's beneficial is that, you don't remove the animal from their home. So, and that may not be accessible. So especially if, say, like we connected and I'd like for you to work with my animals, I'm in El Paso, right? And you are where you are. And they feel it. They're out cold here. They're resting. You can hear them sighing, like, right? And that's going to be comfortable for the animal, instead of taking your cat, putting them in the carrier, driving them to wherever the studio or spaces or wellness center that you're going to. And then the cat's stressed out and doesn't want to come out. So if you can't physically get there, then that's a great option to do it online. Yeah.
So, there's that I try to explain to people. You hook into your Bluetooth, you hook into your Wi-Fi.
Sure.
This is just very similar energy.
You pray,
going,
blow out a candle, and make a birthday wish. You throw a penny in a well. We put these things out there, right? I mean,
yeah.
And the great thing with the ICRT animal Reiki is that it offers experiences, so that way you can guide them through a meditation and just allow the animal to roam, and both of you are getting that experience as well. So it's a nice bonding experience.
Right. So online is probably my favorite, because I feel like, because I'm closing my eyes, I'm connecting to you energetically in a way that if I've got to be aware of your body movements, I've got that more physical focus.
Yeah.
So I come up with more stuff, a lot more intuitive things can come through.
And it makes me think too, like, if people get so hung up on online, my dog gets really, like, he starts barking when he sees a dog on the TV or a moose or another animal. It's like, and like, you're not even smelling it, right? And here you are just seeing this, and so of course they can feel this connection, with the energy. So
of course.
And again, it's a safer, more calming way, non-intrusive, that they can be at home, they can relax, and make sure to ask for permission, right? Like, would you like to receive Reiki today? Might seem silly, but you're honoring your fur baby. Well, thank you, Nancy, so much for joining me on this journey. I really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule.
Thank you, Tracy. It was a pleasure being here.
Wonderful. All right, my beautiful listeners, if you'd like your question featured on Ready Set Reiki, reach out, www.readysetreiki.com. I'm on social media. Check it out there. Send me a message, and perhaps your question can be featured on Ready Set Reiki. So I'm Tracy Seawright, and this has been Ready Set Reiki. We're back.